10864. Station's your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a presentation of Learfield. Welcome to Duck Insider.
Our whole athletic department, there's a level of expectations of success.
Throw, catch, touchdown, Oregon.
He can run and slam.
He's back out for a three. Left wing is good.
In the air to center, back at the wall. It's out of here.
Really excited that we get to rep our Ducks and hopefully come back to Eugene with some championships.
Indoor track and field national champion. And for the fourth time in the last 6 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions.
We have so many teams that are excelling right now, and it's really fun to be a part of.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and welcome to a Friday edition of Duck Insider. We begin today with a number of scheduling updates. That's right, we have a lot of different updates for you. We're going to begin with tonight's Oregon women's basketball game. Unfortunately, the game originally scheduled for this evening has been postponed. Additional information will be announced at a later date. The Ducks are still set to host USC on Sunday, January 30th at noon at Matthew Knight Arena. Now, I want to make note that this did not say that it was a COVID pause, so I think that's a good sign at least, that maybe it's not a UCLA Bruin issue amongst COVID, but we'll see what happens. So more to come. We'll keep you up to date on all of the Oregon women's basketball schedule updates because, unfortunately, we're still living in a world where we keep track of those things. And I hope, look, my biggest thing now is I just hope that we get to a point where all of these games get played. You know, I mean, as just a pure sports fan myself, I'm just like, man, I want these games to get played. And especially for this game that is now officially postponed as we sit here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The Ducks are 4-1. Arizona's 5-2. UCLA is 4-2. I mean, this is a clash that was supposed to come up tonight against a couple of power Pac-12 teams and conference contenders. That was what was on the horizon. But the Ducks, unfortunately, not going to be able to play against UCLA here tonight, but they are still scheduled to host USC coming up on Sunday. Now, USC will play at Oregon State tonight. They're 9-5, Oregon State is 9-5 and 2-2 overall. USC struggling 9-7, 2-4. In the Pac-12. More to come, but we'll keep you up to date. But if you're just joining us, Oregon women's basketball, originally scheduled for tonight at Matthew Knight Arena, has been postponed is the official word. Men's basketball, though, tomorrow against Oregon State in what, frankly, is, I think, a bit of a must-win. I think that it's a must-win because the Ducks did slip up against Colorado, and, well, we're going to break down what that all means. But unfortunately, if you're Colorado, the Ducks have now seen them drop a game, because that's what happened last night with a 60-58 win for Washington. And in that game last night, the Ducks, I think we're all looking on like myself and probably going, all right, let's go Buffs, huh? Like, you want Colorado to be good, especially as Colorado now has a win over Oregon. The Ducks still have to play them on the road, which has been a tough place for the Ducks to play. You want Colorado, if you're the Ducks, to be good. So to keep in mind what that all means, we'll kind of break that down. Washington's 5-3 in conference, 10-8 overall. The Ducks drubbed them. But with the loss from Colorado, that drops Colorado to 5-5 in conference, actually behind Washington in the Pac-12 standings, and they're 13-7 overall. The issue that Colorado had before beating Oregon is that the Buffs hadn't been able to beat the best teams in the league, but they had been knocking off the teams that they, quote-unquote, should knock off. Well, I think Washington, even on the road, that was a game that they should have won. Colorado led big in that game, ultimately gave up a 30-10 run, if I'm not mistaken, when I was watching last night. Gave up a 30-10 run that led to Washington winning the game by 2 points. They score 82 points against Oregon, and then they go and score 58 points against Washington. Didn't shoot the ball near as well, and there were a few takeaways there. One, I think Colorado shot the lights out, but two, Dana Altman, if you were with us yesterday, you heard his comments, was really frustrated with the way that the Ducks played defense against Colorado. He did not like their defense at all, and as a result, they lost the game. Well, that's one that's going to hurt, I think, for the Ducks down the stretch. More on that in a moment, because we look at the schedule and what this all means. Actually, let's go through the standings a little bit more. I'll finish that thought. Scott, you can go ahead and show the standings again for those of you that are watching. So UCLA sits at 7-1 in conference, 15-2 overall. Even without Johnny Juzang last night, UCLA drubbed Cal, 81-57. Then Arizona, coming off that loss to UCLA, they're sitting idle right now because they're playing tomorrow on CBS against Arizona State is the scheduled matchup. But 6-1, 16-2 overall. Arizona still a top 5 team in the rankings. And USC, man, this was a game that I thought was interesting. USC sitting at number 15 in the latest AP rankings. They're 7-3 in conference and 17-3 overall now because Stanford beat them by 3 last night. And they beat them by 3 on the road. That's a tough loss if you're USC. I thought that USC's non-conference schedule wasn't as tough as, say, Oregon's and maybe some others. But USC now with a 17-3 record, 7-3 in conference, they've got a few more wins than a team like Stanford and Oregon. Same amount of losses, though. Stanford's now 5-3 in conference, 12-6 overall, and they're going to get a shot at UCLA coming up tomorrow. If they could win that game, Stanford might suddenly be playing their way into the tournament. They might be replacing, say, an Oregon or maybe a Colorado. We'll see, because Oregon now sits at 5-3 and 12-7 overall. Washington's 5-3 in conference, 10-8 overall. And then Washington State, which is a fascinating team right now, 4-3 in conference, 11-7 overall. Then it's the Buffs at 5-5, 13-7 overall. ASU's 2-5 after all of the reprimands and disciplinary action that's been taken against them. We'll see how they perform against Arizona coming up in that nationally televised game on CBS tomorrow. Then Cal 2-7, 9-11, Oregon State 1-6, 3-14. Of course, that's the next opponent for the Ducks against a 1-6 team, 3-14 overall. The Ducks need to perform well. They really need to perform well. And then Utah 1-10, 8-13 overall. So there's your Pac-12 standings and why all this matters. I've been saying from the beginning that I felt like if you're the 4th best team in the Pac-12, if you finish 4th in the standings, you earn a bye in the Pac-12 tournament, I think that team gets into the NCAA tournament. The metrics are just going to work out that way because you're going to have a UCLA and Arizona team that are probably a 2 seed each at the lowest. Maybe one of them ends up as a 1 seed. USC, I know they've dropped a few games, but they're still trending well in the metrics. USC is probably a 4, 5, 6, maybe a 7 seed at worst, I would say, at this point, unless they just totally faceplant. You're telling me that the 4th best team in a league with even a 2, 2, and a 7 seed isn't going to get into the NCAA tournament? I have a tough time believing that. That being said, though, if a team like Stanford continues to do what they're doing and then Colorado doesn't go on a run, Oregon maybe doesn't go on a run, maybe the 4th best team, they just end up beating themselves apart, and then one of those 3 doesn't get in. But I think right now it really is between those 3 squads. And then Washington State is the interesting one for me. So the net rankings are important at this point because there's been enough games played. I feel like when you get to the last week of January, first week of February, that's when I start to really think, okay, the net rankings are what are a good indicator. Well, Arizona, even after their loss, is number 2 in the net rankings. Gonzaga is number 1. Baylor is the 3rd team in the net rankings. That's a squad that beat Oregon earlier this year. Houston, a squad that beat Oregon earlier this year, is currently at number 4 in the net rankings. Then it's Villanova, Purdue, Kansas, Auburn, Kentucky, LSU. UCLA is number 11 in the net rankings. So if in the net rankings, if the tournament started today and the net rankings is all the committee would look at, Arizona's a 1 seed and UCLA is a 3 seed. Why does that matter to the Ducks? Well, it matters to the Ducks because USC is currently sitting at number 28 in the net rankings. BYU, for example, number 29. St. Mary's, number 23. Are you noticing a pattern here? All of these teams that Oregon lost to in the non-conference season are top 25 net teams, and then they have some wins over some conference foes that are in the top 25 in the net. And this brings me to Washington State. And coincidentally, Washington State is one spot behind SMU. SMU is a team that is currently at number 50 in the net rankings. Oregon won that game earlier this season. Washington State is at 51 in the net rankings. Washington State's 4-3 in conference. Is Washington State a team that's going to be competing with the likes of Colorado, Stanford, and Oregon to maybe be that fourth best team in the league? That's why I think Washington State might actually be the most intriguing team in the conference right now, because they're 11-7 and they're sitting at number 51 in the net ranking. And then it's Oregon at number 58 right now in the net ranking. As of this morning is when the net rankings have been updated through games last night. So if the Ducks continue their trend here, that means you're probably going to have to get a win over a team like Washington State. You might have to get a win over UCLA and USC again. You're going to have them at home. You only have the one game against Arizona, and it's at McKale. Now, if there's one team that has had success in the McKale Center in the Pac-12 era, it's been Oregon. We'll see what happens this year. But continuing to give you an idea, Colorado is 82 in the net rankings. Stanford is 86 in the net rankings, but they jumped 10 spots after their win last night. So I think Stanford, it's fair to say, might be playing their way into postseason contention. Will they end up getting into the postseason? I don't know. We'll find out. But what that means for the Ducks is this is a must-win, because we talk about all those teams that Oregon's competing with. Well, they're not playing one of those teams at home on Saturday. They're playing a rivalry game against a Beavers team that has shown when they get their shot going from three, they're pretty good. They're tough to beat. Jared Lucas did not shoot it well from three at all against Oregon when they met a couple weeks ago in Corvallis, and the Ducks were able to squeak out that win. Didn't shoot it well at all. Got to keep that going. We'll talk a little bit more about the keys to the game, but I wanted to do kind of the big breakdown, because then the schedule ahead, the Ducks can avenge that loss to Colorado in Boulder next Thursday. Then they got to play in Salt Lake City on Saturday. You can't overlook that team. They're last place in the conference, got to take care of business. Then the Ducks have, I think, what is a critical homestand against Stanford. I said previously that I thought we would learn a lot about this Oregon team in the Mountain School road trip and then coming home against the Bay Area schools, because Stanford's already beaten Oregon and now Colorado's already beaten Oregon. I think that you have to take care of business at home. You can probably afford to lose on the road to Colorado, I think, because they're going to drop a few more games. But you got to take care of business against Stanford and Cal at home. And then I think you have to beat Arizona State and avenge that loss in the middle of February, because the Ducks lost that game at home, but they weren't at full strength. Got to go on the road and win that game. Devin says that Oregon cannot afford to lose any more home games at home with USC and UCLA still coming to town. I think that if they come into the February 24th game against UCLA, I feel like if they come into that game having maybe only lost one more game between now and then, I think Oregon's going to be in an okay spot. Maybe I'm biased. I am biased. Maybe I'm Pac-12 biased, that I think that it should be a 4-bid league. I just have a hard time believing that a team that, if the tournament started today based on just the net rankings, that you're going to have a team that is number 2 in the net rankings, is number 11 in the net rankings, and is number 28 in the net rankings. You're not telling me that the metrics are going to work out that the 4th best team in a league with those 3 teams is going to make the tournament? I don't know, man. I think they would make the tournament. So that means the Ducks have to take care of business against the teams that they're supposed to beat. And that is not what they did against Colorado. Dane Altman was very clear. They got outworked. Now they got to be the team that outworks someone, and they've got to do that against Oregon State. Let's talk about some of the keys against Oregon State, and then we'll, unfortunately, tell you about a women's basketball schedule that got one game lighter, as they will not play tonight. Game postponed, and more to come in just a little while. All right, back after this, we'll talk Oregon, Ducks, Beavers. That's coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, you can't stop a new 2022 Toyota. No matter the weather, the Camry all-wheel drive comes out to play. Snowy hills don't stand a chance against the RAV4, and everyone's comfy in the Highlander. See you in the snow. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Dear winter, you can't stop a new 2022 Toyota. No matter the weather, the Camry all-wheel drive comes out to play. Snowy hills don't stand a chance against the RAV4, and everyone's comfy in the Highlander. See you in the snow. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Okay, man, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Show the world that you're tougher than tough. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
We're back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here with you in the Country Financial Studio. The Oregon track and field team begins their indoor run. You know, they started a couple weeks ago in the Cougar Classic, but this is the Razorback Invitational. Arkansas hosts one of the biggest indoor meets of the season. Multi-events already underway today if you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour here on a Friday. And this is a good weekend to follow track and field because a lot of the distance runners for the Ducks are going to make their big debut here this weekend in the Razorback Invitational. You can read all about it on GoDucks.com. Zach Lawson, our Ace Sports Information Director for the Oregon track and field team, is keeping track of it all, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform. You know, look, it's Trackdown USA, right? Oregon is a track and field school that is also a bunch of other sports school, but we know the roots are in track and field. I think the roots of Oregon are track and field, and now the tree that has grown that has so many other different sports that are succeeding is awesome to see. But I always love thinking about this is a track and field school. You know, there's a reason that Hayward Field is the theater of track and field, the premier event holder in the world, I think. There's just nothing like seeing a track and field competition at Hayward Field. So keep up to date on that, GoDucks.com. Oregon women's tennis also, they were in action this morning as part of their ITA kickoff. They dropped a tough one to Tulsa 4-2, and they're going to be back in action out of North Carolina here coming up the rest of the weekend. For men's basketball, tomorrow against Oregon State. Last time, very back-and-forth affair. It was a nail-biter, to say the least, but the Ducks were able to get it done. Now that was the game that the Ducks played coming off of their COVID protocol. For example, Will Richardson did not practice until that game was played after coming out of protocol. So the Ducks, I think, were a little rusty. They weren't shorthanded, which is good, but they were a little rusty in that game. Now, Oregon State, this time around, it looks like everybody's going to be full strength. And it's interesting looking up and down the way that the schedule has been for Oregon State. They've had guys in and out for various reasons. When they've been healthy, they've been a tough team. But they just haven't been able to find that gel point, I feel like. This is just me looking on from afar and following them and now of having called one of the games. I just look at the way Oregon State has played, and if they start to put all those pieces together, they can be dangerous. So if you're the Ducks, got to be aware of that. How do you go about beating them? I think it's limiting Jared Lucas, and I think, to be totally honest with you, Oregon's just going to have to rebound and rebound the heck out of it. Also, being at home is going to be important. Oregon State, well, the Ducks are the better team, and they beat them in Corvallis, but it was close. That was in Corvallis. At Matthew Knight Arena, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. I think Oregon's got to get things done. Meanwhile, a flashback for you. You're going to see this coming up on the Oregon men's basketball social media here this afternoon, but we're going to give you a sneak peek because we put this together because we kind of had some fun with it. Flashback to 2009. The Ducks capped a streak of 16 straight home wins versus the Beavers, and listen to Jerry Allen's call.
Odia gets it to Porter, and Porter will come down court. Throws the ball underneath. Here's Criddle. Two-hand jam. Reverse laying up. No good. Into the ball game. There you go. Criddle throws the ball way up into the air. And Oregon has defeated Oregon State. And Oregon State still cannot break the jinx in Matt Court.
The jinx at Matt Court. I love that call from Jerry Allen in 2009. One of the last ones at Matt Court, and I'll tell you, that was a fun one to go back and look at, having a little bit of fun with kind of the rivalry series history, because this is the most contested rivalry in the history of college basketball. I think about that all the time. Like, we are closing in on the 400th meeting between Oregon and Oregon State on the hardwood. Now, it's going to be a few more seasons. It's going to be a few more seasons. In fact, it's going to be a lot more seasons. But still, we're getting close to 400 games played on the hardwood between these two teams. I also think for the Ducks, Eric Williams for me is a real X factor. He did not play well against Colorado, at least in my opinion. I think that he's going to want to give you a little bit more from the Duck bench. And then Quincy Guerrier, though, he was the bright spot against Colorado, scoring over 20 points. He is going to have to continue to develop. But Dana Altman said, when I talked to him before the Colorado game, that Quincy Guerrier could be a real key for Oregon performing the way that we know they can down the stretch. If Quincy Guerrier can continue to produce at that level, Ducks are going to be tough to beat because he's not just playing the post. He's stretching the floor. He's playing outside. He's doing so many different things for the Ducks. And when he plays at that level and rebounds well, it's a tough matchup. Him against a Warith Alatishe, for example, I'll take Quincy Guerrier. A little more versatile than a Warith Alatishe for Oregon State. We'll see what happens. 7 o'clock, 6:30 pregame, ESPN2 broadcast. Ducks looking forward to it, and I hope that everyone will come out to Matthew Knight Arena. GoDucks.com/MBBTix to head out to Matthew Knight Arena. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about women's basketball. A big reveal for the Ducks, and then unfortunately not going to be able to play tonight. More coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Back on Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack at the Country Financial Studio. Men's basketball scheduled for tomorrow, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock on ESPN2 for the Ducks and the Beavs. Unfortunately, Oregon women's basketball, last night we got word that the Oregon women's basketball game against UCLA has been postponed. It's nothing having to do with Oregon. It's UCLA. So still waiting on word of if that'll be made up or what's going to go on. But in the release, there was no mention that it was a COVID protocol for UCLA. So I guess we'll find out what's going to happen. And more schedule updates for Oregon women's basketball to come when we have them for you. It is the first day of Oregon baseball practice. Going to hear from Mark Wasikowski and some of his student athletes coming up. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. I brought the coat today. I brought the baseball jacket going out to PK Park after we get off the air today. That's going to be, man, I love that. Like, and it's sunny here in the Willamette Valley, a crisp, sunny day. Like, it's perfect to start baseball practice. That's first day today. Women's basketball, so no matchup with UCLA tonight. The standings, though, are important right now for Oregon women's basketball. Stanford's 5-0. The Ducks are 4-1. Arizona's 5-2, of course. A loss at the hands of the Ducks. UCLA is 4-2. Then it's Washington State 3-3, Oregon State 2-2, ASU 1-1. Colorado and USC are both 2-4. Utah's 1-3, but I think they're a better team than that. 0-3, Cal, and then Washington is 0-4. So the Ducks will get USC coming up on Sunday, and that's a game that the Ducks are frankly going to need to win against a team that's 2-4 in conference. It's an important homestand. The Ducks are going to have to take care of business at home. And so why does all this matter? Well, if the Ducks aren't able to play that game against UCLA, it could have some impacts on the Pac-12 standings. So we'll see what happens. But the first seeding reveal was also last night, and it gives you a great idea of where the Ducks sit. So South Carolina was number 1 in the top 16 reveal for games played through the 26th. They're going to do a few of these over the course of the season. South Carolina number 1, Stanford number 2, then it's NC State and Tennessee. Those are the 1 seeds. 2 seeds, Louisville, Indiana, Texas, Arizona. Then Michigan, Iowa State, UConn, LSU, Baylor, Oregon, Georgia, and Kansas State. That was the straight 1 through 16 seeding. So the way that it would work is the Greensboro region would be South Carolina, Arizona, Michigan, Kansas State. Spokane would be Stanford, Texas, UConn, and Georgia. God, what a regional that would be here in our neck of the woods. Bridgeport would be NC State, Indiana, LSU, and Baylor. And then Wichita would be Tennessee, Louisville, Iowa State, and Oregon. So Oregon checked in number 14 in the NCAA Selection Committee's initial release of the top 16 seeds on Thursday. And again, Oregon Senior Women's Administrator and Deputy Athletic Director Lisa Peterson is on this selection committee. So we might be able to get a little bit of an inside peek into the process next time we have her on the show. Ducks are sitting at 12-5, 4-1 in Pac-12 play, as we alluded to with those standings. They've got 2 wins over top 10 teams in Arizona and UConn. Oregon is one of 5 teams nationally with multiple wins over current top 10 teams and one of 6 with at least 3 victories over top 20 teams after also beating Oklahoma earlier in the year. And I will forever remember that as the Niara Sabali game. She was ridiculously good in that game. Ducks have also gotten the trio of 2021 All Pac-12 performers back with Tahina Paopao, India Rogers, Niara Sabali, all returning after missing the majority of the early part of the season. The trio right now are combining to average 48.2 points per game in Pac-12 games, while Oregon is 6-1 with all 3 in the lineup. Makes a difference, huh? Ducks are number 19 in the AP poll, sit at number 12 in the net computer rankings as of yesterday afternoon. The NCAA Selection Committee will release its top 16 seeds 2 more times, February 10th and February 28th, ahead of the selection show on March 13th. March 13th. Circle the date right now. Ducks would be one of the top 16 seeds, which is exactly where you want to be. It is the first official day of Oregon baseball practice, and Mark Wasikowski, we got a chance to hear a little bit about those PK Park renovations and upgrades. New turf fences are coming in. It's going to be a uniform fence and also a new video board at PK Park. All of that being installed and finished up as we speak. And Mark Wasikowski earlier this week, as we talk a little baseball here on practice opening day, he talked about his team and what to expect and what they've seen on the field as we get ready for Oregon baseball season. Here's Coach Waz.
Coach, can you tell me what you've seen from Adam Mayer, I'm not sure how to say it, but just over the fall, over the winter, and, you know, as he was mostly an infielder at UBC, what did you guys see from him on the mound, and what do you think that you can get from him in this season?
Yeah, very insightful. We haven't used him as an infielder quite yet, or the bat, although he's itching to hit as well. but he pitched a lot during the summer. And so we, this fall, we just spent a lot of time on training, and now he's ramped back up for the spring, and he's gone good. Looks like a clearly a guy that we'd feel like would be one of our top 3 starters, if not our best starter. Time will tell on that, but he's got a heck of an arm. All the metrics that the pro scouts are looking for in terms of spin rates and heights and angles and stuff like that are very advanced. He's got a chance to be a very high draft pick, and we're happy he chose to come to Oregon.
Hey, well, it's good to see you. Just from a roster attrition injury standpoint, just where's everyone kind of at this juncture? I know Robbie entered the transfer portal on, the football side of things, but has there been anybody else that's kind of matriculated through or any injuries at this point?
No, we're healthy. So knock on wood on that. So we don't have really any issues there with injuries. The other aspects of it, I mean, we lost some significant pieces, to the draft. There's no doubt about it. I mean, when you lose your top 3 weekend starting pitchers, plus your top 3 statistical, at least in most stats, top 3 hitters, you've got a lot of people that have left the program that way that made a real impact last year. I think that's probably the biggest reason why specifically the pollsters would look at this group and go, how good's this team going to be? And you got, again, question marks like we had a year ago. In the early returns, we really like what we see on the field. We think we can contend for a Pac-12 championship, and we think this team's going to be really strong.
Going back to the rotation, I know you mentioned Adam. I'm just kind of curious who else is kind of gunning for those kind of 3 starting spots, and if there's anybody who's kind of flying under the radar that we maybe aren't super aware of yet.
Good question. There are people that we haven't discussed because we did have, I think some pretty good success recruiting this past offseason. Specifically, though, the names you're looking for in the pitching options right now, Isaac Ayon, he looks tremendous so far in the early goings. We already talked about Adam. He would be in the mix clearly. RJ Gordon had some spot starts and midweek starts last year. He's taken a couple of big steps forward, as well as Andrew Mosiello. Those 4 have really jumped out, and there's some other names as well, but those 4 would be the top 4 off the tongue to be able to think, boy, those guys could clearly be very good Pac-12 weekend starters.
Following up on the pitching front, was and also a catcher, but in the pitching and the arsenal as a whole, any, I don't want to say concern exactly, but you're feeling in terms of just the balance of, you got a bevy of right-handers and just a couple of lefties, and obviously Colby is fantastic, but you kind of have a role carved out for him. So otherwise, just one non-closer in the lefty realm, and at catcher, just the added depth that you have there now, and what that competition looks like. Where obviously Jack comes back, but it's a much deeper room. Looks like you got 6 guys.
Catching spots deeper, no doubt about it. Jack Scanlon's healthy, and that's a good thing. He was a real leader and he could really defend a year ago, and then he got hurt in the regional game on that quirky play. Still yet, Jack looks healthy. He looks stronger. The bat's much improved. Physically, he's much stronger as well. The depth at catcher with Josiah Cromwick, back, he's a really good player. Injuries kept him off the field last year, and so with him being healthy this year, boy, that's exciting. That's a really exciting thing. Anson Arrows, freshman, number 2 rated prospect in the state of California. Last year, he's a freshman here on campus. He's an exciting young talent at the catching position. Local kid from down the road. Bennett Thompson played exceptionally well during scrimmages and wasn't a guy that I would think right out of the chute we thought, well, he could be contending for some starting time, but he's played exceptionally well. He's a local kid and done very well. And then Logan Poshian also was a transfer from Arizona State. He's about our only guy right now that's going through some injury stuff, still coming off of some injury stuff from last year when he took a medical redshirt at Arizona State, and he's here on our depth chart as well. We like the numbers that we have at that position. We think that that should be one of our strengths in the program for sure. I can't remember the front end of your question, James. I don't want to skip over it.
Just the feeling of the balance in the bullpen in particular. Just that you have a lot of right-handers, just only 2 lefties this season, where Colby has his role carved out already, but otherwise just one other lefty. And just your feeling of just the balance that you have with just a ton of righties and fewer lefties this season.
Yeah, Rio Britton would be the other left-hander. He's got a really big arm. Pitched some innings last year. Was actually supposed to be a senior in high school last year, age-wise. So he's young. He's got a very talented arm. As we all know, he's going to be a very coveted guy with the professional level teams next year. Not this coming season, but next year when he's draft eligible, there'll be a line of guys that are interested in Rio. But yeah, you're right. We don't have a bunch of lefties. It's tough to find those real quality lefties out there that are awesome pitchers. But I think what we have is we've got a lot of real quality depth in the back end of our bullpen, right-handed as it may be. I really like those options that we have back there. We were able to add a couple of guys, and I just think there's some real power arms on the back side of that thing leading up to Summers.
Coach, you touched on recruiting just a little bit. Who have you seen that from this class that has really impacted the program already, and a couple of names to look out for?
Well, start with infield. Drew Cowley came in here. He's a transfer from Cal Poly Pomona, left-handed hitting infielder, can play any of the 3 or 4 infield spots if you wanted to add first base as well. But he was a shortstop at his last stop, played a lot of summer baseball at third base, and was the best offensive player in the California Collegiate League. He looks like he's going to be one heck of a player for us. Jacob Walsh, freshman out of Las Vegas, Nevada, first baseman, big, strong, left-handed hitting first baseman. He's good. He turned a lot of money down to come to the University of Oregon, and we're blessed to have him. Those 2 guys right there, right off the top, are really spectacular players that we're very fortunate to have. I could go down a list of probably about 6 or 7 guys that have really jumped out, and then the development of some other kids like Scotty Ellis on the pitching staff. Caleb Sloan, those guys were here a year ago. They've got power arms, and they're really primed with their development. Tommy Brandenburg was hurt all fall. He's a freshman out of Washington. He was a very experienced guy on the circuit, summer circuit, showcase circuit. He was injured this last fall. He got hurt in summer baseball with an ankle or a foot or something like that. And now he's back to being fully healthy. He's a right-handed pitcher for us, and he looks like he has a big arm. There's guys, though, throughout the program that are in that incoming class that I think are going to really surprise some people. And really, another kid named Brendan Malone, a transfer from South Carolina, tremendous power in the bat, third baseman, can play all over the infield. Some really good options with some new players, and it's created some fantastic competition and depth so far.
That's pretty cool to hear, especially with, look, the middle of the order. I mean, guys like Aaron Zavala, Adrian just shouting out here on a product side of things. Big Texas Rangers fan. He says, I'm looking forward to seeing Aaron Zavala this season over here in North Carolina, either with low A Wood Ducks or the high A Hickory Crawdads, which, by the way, great names. Just spectacular baseball team names. That baseball names its teams at the minor league level better than anybody. I mean, there's just so many fun ones. I think it's cool, though, hearing a guy like Aaron Zavala, first pick of the second round. You heard Coach Waz mention that. And, Kenyon Yovan, Gabe Matthews. Like, the middle of the order is going to look a lot different for the Ducks. You're going to need guys like Josh Kasevich, like Anthony Hall to take big steps forward, and maybe a few other guys that can step up. Speaking of those guys, we're going to hear from some of them. It's the first day of Oregon baseball practice. Going to continue previewing the season when we come back to Duck Insider here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
Money isn't interested in the fact that you dream of going to Greece, and it doesn't pace at night wondering how you'll pay for braces 3 times. The point is, money without people is just money. Only people can use it to run the family ranch, buy their first house, or adopt a happy old dog. To us, the powerful thing about money isn't money at all. It's helping you harness the power of yours. On Point. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song!
I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back on Nugget Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here with you. Going to continue to preview Oregon baseball season. They're practicing at PK Park this afternoon. First official day of practice as the Ducks get ready for that opener. And, you know, it's going to be fun to have everybody at PK Park for the first time with this new and awesome video board and field. But the Ducks will be on the road to start the season on Friday, the 18th of February, before their home opener in a 4 o'clock first pitch against St. John's on Friday, February 25th. And I am already looking forward to it. We'll be introducing you to our new Oregon baseball broadcaster who will join me in the booth, Jordan Brenner, on the show on Monday. So come on back for that. Josh Kasevich, he's going to be a big key. If Oregon's going to be successful, it's probably because this guy is making plays at shortstop and, well, making plays with the bat, too. Josh Kasevich talked with the media a little bit this week.
Gaining a lot of draft board traction. I mean, how does that kind of make you feel as both like a student athlete and just in general, I guess?
Feels good. It's rewarding, but I mean, that's not really the focus right now. The focus is on winning some games here and winning a championship here. So that's where we're at going forward.
Josh, what are your first impressions right now of the changes to the ballpark, just changes to the dimensions, changes to the feel and look of things?
It's awesome. I think the coolest part for me is the infield, kind of a different material. I think actually it's coconut shavings on the infield, so it plays kind of like dirt. Get some more true hops and plays really nice.
Josh, you had a spectacular season last year. You know, what are you looking to improve on this year, and what can you really improve on?
I think I can improve on driving the ball kind of into the gaps a little bit more, getting a little bit more extra base hits and hitting for a little bit more power, but just trying to stick to that same approach of staying through the middle of the field and kind of staying with the plan of doing whatever it takes for the team to win.
Waz talked a lot about the new recruits. I was just wondering what you think of the new talent.
Yeah, they're great. Great to have around the locker room and great to be a part of this organization and bring a lot to this club and really help us out this year and give us the pieces we need to win some games.
With a lot of the offensive pieces moving on from last year, they're mostly going to the minor league affiliates. What's the locker room been like, and a couple of guys who have stepped up and become some vocal leaders?
Yeah, a bunch of good veteran leaders in that clubhouse. Guys like Tanner Smith, Sam Nowitzki, Gavin Grant, great to have around and kind of show the younger guys the ropes and how they should go about their business to put themselves in positions to be successful.
Guys, you have certain numeric goals you have that you're shooting for, whether it be on base or average or power RBIs or anything like that? Anything that you're kind of shooting for?
No numeric goals for me. Just want to go into each game with that team mindset. I think if you try to influence the game in a positive way for your team each day you play, the individual stuff will come based off that.
It's good mentality. Spoken like a true baseball player. That's Josh Kasevich. He's going to be a big leader for this Oregon team. Another one is going to be Anthony Hall. Really went on a tear toward the end of the season. Had 1 week where he was the best hitter in college baseball. I mean, I'm dead serious. Like, Anthony Hall had an OPS of like 1,500 in 1 weekend. And he really went on a tear toward the end of the season. Was a big reason why the Oregon bats in that lineup got a little bit deeper. He figures to be an important part of Oregon's outfield, and it's an outfield that's going to look a little bit different at PK Park. Not just the players on it, but the field, the fence. Anthony Hall talked about that and some of his individual goals this year.
So with the new dimensions of the ballpark, what does that do for you, particularly in the outfield, with a little bit of at least a more consistent fence everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take some time to get used to because the old park was a little bigger, obviously. But I'm more excited for the offensive part. I think it'll help us a little bit, especially me. I'm excited for that.
You really started to heat up at the end of last year. How do you feel going into this year, starting as one of the regular players?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think towards the end of the year, I was just kind of having more fun with just playing baseball and relaxing a little more. I think it's just more of a mental thing. So I'm just going to take that into this year and just have some fun with it. I think we got a good squad this year. I think we can make a really good run for it. So I'm excited.
Anthony, you made Jonathan Mayo's top 100 MLB, draft prospects for the 2022 draft. What does that mean to you and getting this type of high praise after a season that you just had?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool seeing all these rankings come out, but I'm just going to take it one step at a time, just kind of focus on the season right now. The main goal is to get to Omaha and win it. So like I said, I'm just going to take one step at a time.
With Aaron Zavala leaving and, with the outfield role and your opportunities getting, having more opportunities to enhance your draft prospects, like what are you looking to improve upon the most in this season and what have you worked for?
Yeah, so I think we lost a lot of key pieces from last year, but I think we'll be just fine. We got a lot of young talent, but for me personally, I think just kind of being more consistent with just like my mentality and just kind of playing with that confidence that I really gained over the past year. I know what I'm capable of, so I think it's just, for me, it's just a big mental thing, just being confident how I can play, and I know I can play pretty well, so I just got to keep that into the season.
Anthony, I'm just curious, what do you think was sort of most beneficial about your summer at the Cape, and how much did that kind of help grow that confidence that you just mentioned?
I think just me knowing, like having a sense of belonging there. It's the best summer league in the nation, so just knowing that, I was an all-star there, so just kind of having that in the back of my head, knowing that I'm one of the best players in the country. That's where all my confidence kind of got gained over the past year. So
Anthony Hall talking there with the media, getting ready for Oregon baseball season as practice begins today. Now to the rotation, Isaac Ayon, a guy who has one of the most live arms we've seen. Mark Wasikowski was really high on him last year. Figures to be in the rotation this weekend. Maybe one of the weekend guys, maybe the Friday guy. We'll find out as practice continues and gets underway really today. Isaac Ayon, I think his potential is off the charts. He talked to the media this week previewing the season.
Hey, Isaac, I just kind of want to get your perspective on your increased role this year, kind of like what your mindset is on facing the challenge. Sorry, I kind of stumbled.
Yeah, I don't think it's, you could say it's an increased role. It's just kind of the same stuff I've been doing last year, just going about my business, and then whatever happens, just putting in the Lord's hands, and whatever he has planned for me, I'm just going to put in my work and everything will fall into place how it's supposed to be.
Isaac, with 38 innings as a true freshman, when you look back at those, what do you look to improve on in this upcoming season, and what did you take away from those innings?
Yeah, definitely something I want to improve on this year is being more consistent. Last year I had a couple ups and downs. Some games I'd be good and then some games I wouldn't. So I just want to be more consistent in every time I go out to pitch, getting hitters out, and just being able to help my team out to the best possible way I can.
I just wanted a pitcher's perspective on the new dimensions to the ballpark and just the changes between the consistent fence all across, a little bit shorter power alleys, which I'm sure from a pitcher's perspective is not as strong, but
right. The fence is coming in. Yeah, it sucks a bit, but that just means that I'm going to have to keep the ball low and at the knees and lower than that. But other than that, our field's beautiful. I'm glad we got a renovation. We couldn't be happier. But the fence is coming in. It's not the best, but it's just gonna make me a better pitcher in the long run, keeping the ball lower.
Just to follow what that Kasevich was saying, the infield surface changed a little bit. Have you picked up on how different or not that is on ground balls and hard hops and stuff?
I personally haven't. We've done PFPs once on the field so far, so I can't really get a read, but he takes ground balls every day, so I'm sure he would know better than I do for sure.
Yeah, going back to what you said about wanting to be more consistent, how do you sort of go about doing that? Was there one or two things in the offseason that you really were kind of focused on, or what's kind of the details there?
Yeah, so kind of like going off like that from last year, being more consistent, I realized when I was more consistent, I was more relaxed. So when I was on the mound, I was taking deep breaths, just being more relaxed. So that's for sure one thing I focused on this fall, just taking deep breaths and being relaxed. And then I also worked a lot on executing my pitches. We do execution bullpens with Angier, and I think that just helped a ton. And I just think if I can just relax and pitch, everything will be just fine.
Have you or you and the Oregon staff have like tinkered with any of your pitch mix at all, like trying to get the best like grip for spin rate or arm angles or tunneling effects, anything like that?
Right. Yeah. So this year I've been a four seam curve slider changeup guy. So when I came up here, I had a two seam as well. So I stopped throwing that because it was kind of doing the same thing. It had the same run as my four seam. So they just banged it. But then me and Angier were talking. We're like, why don't you try to throw your two seam like your changeup? So I did that. And then once I did that, it was getting completely different run than my four seam was. And it was actually more of a sinker, kind of close to Kafka's last year, Angier was saying. So I kind of just been messing with that grip, throwing it a lot. I do it in the fall. I do it over winter break, and I've been throwing it a ton now. And I think that's going to be my go-to pitch this year. Like I'm going to rely heavy on my sinker this year a lot, and it tunnels well with my four seam because the sinker gets the downward depth, and then the four seam has more run to it.
To follow up on that, how long did it take to kind of feel comfortable with that pitch and get really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress still. I mean, some days are consistent, some days are off, but I've definitely got a lot better with that. I think just the more you throw it, the more I play catch with it, the more I get better feel for it. So, it's going to come along as the season goes on.
As you mentioned a few things there, but going back to last year, like I was talking with Robbie, he told me a little bit about some of the things that he worked on with Angier about staying loaded in a certain way and staying behind his back hip and things like that. Anything mechanically that you just worked on a bit this offseason, either increased velocity or control?
One thing I did work on was staying more on my backside as I worked down the mound. I tended to come out of my backside a little bit as I worked down the mound. And as I started to do that, I was more quick to the plate from the stretch, and my velo is I'm starting to sit in the higher velocities as I stay in my backside. As I work down the mound, I'm starting to maintain my velocity better. So that was a big thing, and it's should be beneficial for me this year.
This is a bit of a nerdy question, but do you get more glove or arm side run in your fastball on your four seam? Because you're saying that it tunnels well with your sinker.
Yeah,
and
I get more arm side run on mine. However, my sinker also gets arm side run. It just gets more downward depth, which makes it more of a sinker.
And how does your sinker tunnel with your slider?
It tunnels actually pretty well. I mean, actually, it tunnels decently. I mean, they're a little bit of a different arm slot, so it's coming from a different arm slot by about half an inch. But other than that, my slider is pretty sharp this way, and then my sinker goes this way. So it's going to be pretty deceiving to a hitter. But other than that, I don't think they'll pick up the minor arm slot difference, but we'll see.
I love that. The scouting report there from Isaac Ayon on himself, right? That's the fun stuff for people like me that like to get into the nitty-gritty of baseball and all the different deliveries that you can have to the plate. I love that stuff. When we come back, good news, I think, for Pac-12 softball. We'll wrap it up with, I think, great news after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. I think some great news yesterday. Pac-12 announcing the creation of a conference championship event for softball to begin in 2023. So it won't happen this year, but in 2023 we will see a softball tournament hosted on Pac-12 campuses. It's going to rotate annually among the league's 9 softball playing institutions, providing increased exposure, community engagement, and, well, a bunch of different fan bases get to experience the Pac-12 softball environment, which is, I think, the best in the country. Pac-12 could not be more excited to add a softball championship to its lineup of postseason events, Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff said. Teams will play once per day, with the 4-day event beginning with a play-in game between the 8th and 9th place teams in the regular season standings. The play-in winner will advance to an 8-team single-elimination bracket, with the quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship being contested the following 3 days. The winner of the Pac-12 softball championship will receive the conference's automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. For a, I think, great conference like the Pac-12, the nation's premier softball conference for sure, that might just lead to more Pac-12 teams getting into the postseason and having a great conference tournament like this. Melissa Lombardi, Oregon softball head coach, said, quote, "I love that our conference tournament will now be the kickoff to postseason. The fans, the environment, the competition will showcase how competitive and tough our conference is every week." That's Melissa Lombardi, Oregon softball head coach, as the Ducks are excited about the upcoming Pac-12 softball tournament, which will begin next year. Meanwhile, though, for Oregon baseball, as they begin practice today, first Pac-12 baseball conference tournament this year. I'm excited about it. I'm really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, no women's basketball tonight, but we will see it for men's basketball at Matthew Knight Arena tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Go Ducks, everybody.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at soundidouttogether.org.